Christmasaurus, Chapter 14. A Secret Passenger. It was still the night before Christmas, and all through the North Pole not a creature was stirring, except a dinosaur. The Christmasaurus woke up suddenly next to the fire, which had now died down to its last glowing embers. Feeling cold and lonely, he looked around the room and could just make out the enormous belly of Santa as he lay asleep on his super-duper, double-fatty, king-size bed. Oh, how he wished that his stuffed dinosaur friend was still with him. He knew that out there, somewhere, was someone who needed it more than he did, but that didn't make saying goodbye any easier. Suddenly an idea popped into the Christmasaurus's brain. It was a cheeky, naughty little idea, but once one of those ideas pops inside your head, it's almost impossible to pop it out again. What if, he thought to himself, what if he were to take just one last peep at Stuffy, just to say one last little goodbye? He knew the toy was in the back of the sleigh somewhere. Surely it couldn't be that hard to find, and if he didn't do it now, then he'd never get to see it again. The Christmasaurus couldn't bear the thought of not having one last look. Quickly and quietly, he hopped up onto his feet and crept out of Santa's room. He didn't stop creeping until he was standing in the enormous barn they called a sleigh room at the foot of the enormous sleigh, surrounded by dozens of piles of exhausted sleeping elves who were snoring in harmony. Before he could think twice, he barely even thought once. He was climbing up the side of Santa's almighty sleigh. He'd never touched a sleigh before. It was so preciously shiny and special that to look at it was satisfying enough. But now he only had one thing on his mind: finding Stuffy. He dived nose first into the sea of sacks that filled the back of the sleigh. He swam deeper into the prickly fabric. He sniffed around through stacks of soldiers, cars and trucks, dollies and ponies. But that stuffed dinosaur was packed deep. So, deeper the Christmasaurus went until suddenly his little dinosaur claws felt something. Yes! That was it! He recognised the cuddly squish of his stuffed friend. The Christmasaurus clawed his way inside the sack and poked his nose through a tiny gap in the wrapping paper until his wonderful icy eyes were staring into the golden buttons of Stuffy. The Christmasaurus gave Stuffy one last hug goodbye. It was a long hug, a very long hug. So long, in fact, that before the Christmasaurus knew it, he was drifting happily back off to sleep. Clang! The Christmasaurus woke with a start. The room outside the sleigh no longer sounded snoozy and quiet. It was now full of the busy sounds of elf feet scurrying in every direction, polishing the brass skis on the sleigh, jangling every sleigh bell on the reindeer's reins, and replacing any that had lost their jingle. The Christmasaurus had slept in the back of the sleigh all night. It was now Christmas Eve. "Good morning, my teensy busy little elves," boomed Santa's voice. By the sound of his heavy bootsteps, the Christmasaurus knew Santa was already dressed in his Christmas Eve suit. A gloriously long, quilted red flying jacket with extra pockets for cookies and fudge brownies, his black fireproof boots and a red hat with a fluffy white bobble. The Christmasaurus peered through a gap in the sacks of presents. Santa looked outstandingly large and jolly. "Good morning, Santa. The sleigh is set. You're ready to fly, but don't forget that under your suit is a spare red hat. If you feel tired, then take a nap," the elves sang in unison as Santa climbed up into the front of the sleigh. The Christmasaurus was trapped. If he climbed out now, then he would surely be seen, and Santa would know he'd snuck a sneaky peek in the sleigh and crumpled a perfectly elf-wrapped present. That was extremely naughty indeed. But if he stayed where he was, then he'd be stuck flying around the world with the reindeer in Santa's sleigh. Flying around the world with the reindeer in Santa's sleigh. Flying, reindeer, sleigh. That had been the Christmasaurus's dream since the day he laid eyes upon those flying deer. Was this his chance to experience what flying like a reindeer was really like? Or should he climb out of the sleigh and come clean? Before he could decide what to do, there was a sudden jolt that rattled the sleigh. The great barn doors had just been opened and the magnificently magical flying reindeer were tugging at the reins, ready to rocket into the sky. "My elves," Santa called from the front seat of his sleigh. "My tiny elves, my little friends, your work is almost done. Now I must do my duty to deliver every one of all these gifts and goodies to every boy and girl, fill each and every stocking with each and every toy." So I'll fly into the sky behind this herd of magic deer to house and home and rooftop just as I do each year. And when the sacks are empty, not one left to deliver, we'll head back through the sky, for we'll have no more need to shiver. We'll celebrate tomorrow with mince pies and candy canes and start dreaming about next year when it's Christmas time again. Santa lifted his arms in the air and there was a sudden hush. An intensely magical silence flooded the great barn. The cold, crisp air that was blowing through the open barn doors suddenly stopped too, and the snowflakes that had found their way inside hung suspended in the air as if time itself had slowed down. Santa was smiling to himself, and somewhere in the pile of toys behind him, the Christmasaurus was secretly wagging his tail. Was he actually about to experience flying? Each of the reindeer that was strapped up to the sleigh now had its eyes fixed on Santa, waiting for him to give the sign. Then, just before time seemed to stop completely, Santa reached inside his enormous coat and pulled something quite bizarre out of the inside pocket. It was a full-size, old-fashioned gramophone, a record player with an enormously curly brass horn. Quite how it fitted inside his pocket, I'll never know. Santa placed it softly on the seat next to him in the sleigh. Then he took off his red hat, reached inside it and pulled out a vinyl record. He carefully placed it onto the turntable, lowered the needle into the first fine groove and flicked a little brass switch on the side. Music exploded out of the enormous brassy horn and filled the room with song. Music is a magic like no other, which can do incredible, unexplainable things. Suddenly the heavy skis of Santa's sleigh lifted up a centimetre or two off the barn floor, as though they were floating on the music itself. Then Santa gave the sign and he started singing. I heard a noise on the rooftop, it made my heart go jump. The stomp of boots and the clump of hooves went clippity, clippity, clump. Oh, I heard a noise on the rooftop, I wonder what it was. I really hope it's Santa Claus. The reindeer launched into a gallop and whooshed through the great barn doors. I heard a noise on the rooftop, it sounded like a sleigh. Santa continued singing his favourite Christmas song, accompanied by the magic orchestra blasting from the gramophone. I went to bed on Christmas Eve and soon is Christmas Day. The Christmasaurus rattled and bounced and rolled around in the back of the sleigh with the biggest grin on his scaly face, still clinging onto the arms of William's stuffed dinosaur. Oh, I heard a noise on the rooftop, now I can't sleep because... Then the thud of glowing golden galloping deer hooves on the snow stopped. They weren't thudding on snow anymore. They were galloping on the air itself. They were flying. The sleigh was flying. The Christmasaurus was flying. I really hope it's Santa Claus, warbled Santa with a jolly smile as the sleigh and its secret passenger disappeared into the northern lights towards the waiting world.